My name is Mitch Hedlund. I am the founder and executive director of the nonprofit organization Recycle Across America and Recycle Across the World. We are working with the International Waste Platform, its members, as well as collaborators, to present a very simple solution to the United Nations that's highly effective to fix the recycling crisis and significantly begin reducing the amount of waste going into oceans and waterways around the world. At the end of this video, you will see email addresses as well as links for more information. Thank you.
In addition to reducing and reusing, having proper recycling systems thrive at scale is one of the most important ways to begin preventing waste from going into oceans and waterways, and it is critical for reducing climate change. In fact, recycling, when done properly, has the ability to positively impact 14 of the 17 UNEP Sustainable Development Goals. When done properly, recycling has the ability to be one of the most economically beneficial sustainable industries, and it is the most widely adopted sustainable action by the public where it exists. However, despite its vast benefits, recycling has been designed to fail. In most countries, labeling on recycling bins are inconsistent and confusing from one bin to the next. Icons on packaging are confusing and often misrepresent the recyclability of the packaging. And the packaging itself is often unnecessarily complex, mixing recyclable materials and non-recyclable materials, making it virtually impossible for the public to be able to recycle properly. Unfortunately, because recycling is not protected or regulated, it makes it possible for brands to mislead consumers about the recyclability of their packaging and therefore profit from greenwashing. Also, it makes it possible for industries that profit from recycling not working, such as the virgin plastics industry, the fossil fuel industry, landfill and incinerator industries, etc., to influence how recycling is communicated and whether it is a viable industry or not. With all of the confusion surrounding recycling, it is virtually impossible for the public at a critical mass to be able to recycle properly. It is virtually impossible for recycling to thrive. The public confusion about recycling leads to mistakes, apathy, and even skepticism about recycling. And this leads to millions of tons of garbage being thrown into recycling bins, which significantly increases the cost of processing the materials, decreases the quality and the quantity of the recycled commodities, and it reduces the demand for those materials. The cost of trying to remove the garbage that is thrown in with the recyclables make the use of recycled commodities unable to compete with the virgin commodities. The byproduct of this is that when global markets collapse with recycling, in underserved countries where there is a lack of infrastructure, all of that waste and all of those plastic materials that are littered and strewn throughout the country or littered on beaches, ultimately pickers that are willing to pick up the plastic and the recyclables now have less income due to the devaluation of those materials because of the contamination. So the amount of waste going into oceans continues to exponentially increase with the recycling crisis. When the efficacy and viability of recycling is stifled by the confusion and subsequent contamination, and recycling is an economic burden to governments, then countries that have not yet invested in a recycling infrastructure have very little motivation to do so. So let's fix recycling once and for all and make it possible for people to be able to recycle right wherever they are, and therefore make the economics and the environmental potential for recycling thrive. Much like the UN introduced society-wide standardized road signage in the Vienna Convention in 1968, which has been adopted by countries around the world to help people be able to drive properly wherever they are, regardless of different driving rules, It is now time for the introduction of society-wide standardized signage and icons to help people recycle properly wherever they are, regardless of different recycling rules. A society-wide standardized labeling system for recycling bins, society-wide recycling icons for packaging, and best practices for creating recyclable packaging have been developed and proven to fix the public confusion surrounding recycling. These simple standardizations, in addition to an internationally adopted verification system for recyclability, will finally allow the public to be able to recycle right wherever they go. This in turn will reduce the costly contamination, make the cost of the materials less expensive to process, making them more competitive with virgin commodities, and also making the quality and the quantity of the recycled commodities something that manufacturers can rely on. We are asking the United Nations to consider vetting these standardizations and, just like the Vienna Convention, establishing a treaty for nations to adopt and implement these solutions to eliminate public confusion and make recycling economically viable once and for all. In doing so, not only will it allow recycling and closed-loop manufacturing to begin to thrive where the infrastructure already exists, but it will also inspire countries that have not yet invested in recycling infrastructure to do so. When the public is able to recycle properly wherever they are, and when they see these materials as valuable and a demanded commodity around the world, there will be less of these materials going into oceans and waterways. When all types of recycling materials are gathered for reuse, there will be less deforestation, less mining of finite materials, less energy use, less fossil fuel extracted, less CO2 levels, and less climate change. We're asking the UN to repeat what they were able to achieve with road safety and apply that logic to recycling to create a thriving circular economy. For consumer brands and industries that have been claiming that they want recycling to work, they should be highly supportive of these solutions and the UN's leadership for such a treaty. Perhaps they would even consider helping fund the implementation of these solutions in countries that adopt the treaty. To learn more about the standardized labels for recycling bins, standardized icons for packaging, and standardized requirements for recyclable packaging, please contact the information below.